right, Clark. Let's start with our team routinely disappointing us. What's your first impression on the Dolphins getting beat by 37?
Uh, I'm I'm not surprised. I've basically come to expect this when the Dolphins play really good teams, and the Ravens are clearly a really good team. They, we've talked about Tua a lot over the years that he's been in Miami, and it's the same kind of stuff, right? I mean, he throws a lot of stuff over the middle. He takes some chances on some deep shots, and with varying results. Sometimes it's, there's been plenty of games this season where he's had some really good deep shots. And I mean, in this game, you know, that wasn't necessarily a problem. I mean, he was trying to make plays when they were down by a bunch. But, the Ravens kind of take away the middle, and the Dolphins, their offensive line wasn't doing the best job protecting Tua. I mean, one of the things that was really disappointing is the game got so out of hand, yet Devon Achane was running all over the place, but they couldn't keep running the ball because they were down by so much. So that was disappointing. That Miami's defensive line, which I've had questions about for a while, they could not get any pressure on Lamar Jackson. He had all day to throw. I mean, and the funny thing is people think, well, the problem with Lamar is, when he gets out of the pocket and whatever. Yeah, he did that a little bit today. He didn't need to. I mean, he wasn't rushed really at all. And then the Dolphins secondary, they had a long pass play that I don't know what the hell was going on with the corner and the safety. It looked like there was some confusion there. And they just got, and then you go to Tua throwing, he threw 2 interceptions. I mean, basically the Ravens, they took away the middle of the field. That first interception, that's what happened. He's usually there's space out there in the middle of the field. He threw it there and the guy just jumped in front of it and, intercepted it. And then the other one, I don't know why the hell he was throwing that. That kind of speaks to, we've had questions about how well does Tua read defenses? Is he just throwing the ball? Is he just like dropping back, planting his foot and throwing? And that's one of those plays that makes it look like, yeah, that's what he's doing. And when it works, it's great. But when it doesn't, that's what you get. So I'm kind of disappointed, but I'm kind of disappointed in myself because I got a little ahead of myself thinking, oh, yeah, the Dolphins could get the 1 seed and they could. I mean, at this point, I don't even think we'll get to them, whether they can win the division or not. But, I mean, just this game in particular, it's just kind of is what it is. This is what I expect when they play good teams. Like, they can't really compete with them. I'm still questioning the defense in terms of being able to rush the quarterback. Xavier Howard got injured, but it's not like he has been playing all that well this year. So, yeah, those are just kind of, I know I'm rambling. Those are just kind of my general thoughts after just watching the game.
Yeah, listen, it's disappointing for them to get blown out. I thought they could be reasonably competitive in this game. I knew if Baltimore played their best, that the Dolphins were not going to beat them. But yeah, and the pass rush is one thing, but the Dolphins didn't cover anybody. I mean, they're running, the first half, there were 3 or 4 plays. They're just running wide open down the field. It's like, I mean, it doesn't really matter if you're rushing the quarterback at all, if guys are just running wide open because Lamar's going to hit him. And I texted you this during the game, like Tua's claim to fame is that he's like this super accurate quarterback. And meanwhile, I'm watching and Lamar Jackson is significantly better than him. It's not like it's, oh, well, the quarterback who was accurate today was Lamar Jackson, who, by the way, has been questioned about his accuracy a lot. So I just, and I think where I've come to with Tua is, yeah, if it's perfect, like he's got a chance to be pretty good. And, as well as completion percentage really high. Tua's completion percentage has to be really high because he's got no other moves. The only thing he has going for him is his accuracy, and accuracy can only get you so far unless you're perfect. So,
right.
So yeah, it's disappointing the defense played as bad as they did. And it just brings into question everything the Dolphins have done this season. They haven't really beaten a good team. The Dallas win last week is their claim to fame when they scored 22 points and had to kick 3 50-plus yard field goals to win the game. So that's supposed to be their impressive win. And the offense just looks, I said it, I think I wrote it down. I mean, the Dolphins are a defensive team now. Like, that's what they are. The offense is we're hoping we can squeeze out enough points to make the game competitive, and hopefully the defense will play like they had been playing up to this week. But look, there's no shame in losing to the Ravens. They're a really good team. I get it, but the performance today by the Dolphins was a really a disaster. Like you had plenty of time to work on this. You had enough guys healthy, and not only do they lose the game, Xavier Howard gets carted off the field, Bradley Chubb gets carted off the field, and Tua gets injured trying to slide on a play where he's running, which I mean, I don't know why Tua is still in the game when we're down by 23 with 8 minutes to go. I have no idea what Mike McDaniel's doing. Like, and honestly, you can see it watching these games as a fan. Once Tua doesn't have it anymore, it's done. Like once he threw the second pick, you might as well just pull him because he doesn't have if he doesn't have it today, he doesn't have it. He's like a relief pitcher when you bring him in. Like if he's got it going, okay, but once it's gone, it's gone. So anyway,
yeah, well, I'll say this: everyone talks about the Dolphins' offense. Oh, it's so explosive. The Ravens' offense appears to be just as explosive. No, the Dolphins have all this speed. The Ravens got plenty of speed. And then you combine that with how well their offensive line plays and how they can run the ball, not running off tackle and toward the sideline, running right at you. And also with Lamar Jackson, which Lamar didn't even really run that much today. So that's another aspect of their game that's always there. So yeah, the Dolphins are not. I think people get the idea the Dolphins are close. No, they're not close. Their offensive line is still a work in progress. They can't really run right at you. Their defense, the pass rush has been okay. And again, this is the eye test. I'm not talking about whatever stats you have on their pass rush, but their secondary, it's okay. Like they're not close. They're a ways to go, especially when you have a quarterback like Tua who's limited and who can't really rise to the way, and in a game like this, you need to rise up to the way Lamar is playing. And Tua does not have the capacity to do that. This is his fourth year. The interceptions that we see are the same kind of interceptions we've always seen since he's been in the league. So this is just this is what Tua is. And this is kind of what the Dolphins are. They need to improve significantly on their offensive line and on their defense.
Yeah, the Tua's got to have a perfect roster around him to do anything. And I think if, like I've said, I've been saying earlier this season, if Tua played for San Francisco, I think we'd be talking about him for the MVP because he'd be putting up unbelievable numbers on a great team. I just think my criticism of Tua has always been the same. He couldn't beat good teams in college. He can't beat good teams in the NFL. And so, the Dolphins are not close to, as far as elite teams go, the Dolphins are not close to an elite team. The reason that the Dolphins were so interesting this year and had a chance is because this year's kind of a crapshoot. And so you've got a lot of teams with a lot of issues. And so, let's talk. I mean, Clark, where are you at with the Buffalo game next week? Because I think,
just so everybody knows, I don't think it's been announced yet, but we're sort of assuming that the Buffalo-Miami game is going to get flexed to Sunday night. So when the Dolphins lose the division, it can be nationally televised, so a bunch of people across the country can watch the Dolphins season just, go up in flames. So yeah, thank you, NFL. I'm really again, when we did the sports grievances, the last podcast, I told you I didn't like flex scheduling NFL games. Well, this is one of the reasons why, because if your team gets put on there and you come out and you play like shit, then the whole country gets to see your team and laugh at you. So, okay, beyond that, just for people, and we've been talking about this for weeks now. Okay, guys, Dolphins fans and also national sports media. Next week is for the AFC East. Okay, whoever wins the game, the Dolphins are playing the Bills. Whoever wins the game wins the AFC East. So all you people who thought, the Bills aren't going to make the playoffs, and you weren't even thinking about them winning the division, well, guess what? It's here. All the Bills got to do is win this game.
Not only that, Clark, the game is for the number 2 seed.
Right.
So, if not only is Buffalo going to get in, they're going to get possibly multiple home games in the playoffs. So
Right.
it's it's funny, let's moving on. I mean, look, I don't like, listen, I think the Dolphins can beat Buffalo, sure, because Buffalo is all over the place. But I don't look at this game as, well, if the Dolphins play well, they'll win. To me, it just comes down to Buffalo. If Buffalo does what they're supposed to do, they will win because they just have more talent. They have more talent at the key positions, and the Dolphins defense has never been able to stop Josh Allen. It's just a bad matchup for them. They just can't. There's nothing they can do. They don't have fast enough players on defense to slow him down, and so that's what it's going to be.
Well, and
So
Bradley Chubb is probably out now. I mean, it looked
yeah,
like he suffered a pretty serious injury, so that's a huge blow to their defense. Jalen Waddle, he's got a high ankle sprain. We'll see.
right.
And I just, like, is this game going to get out of hand like it did earlier in the season? Possibly. I mean, because I don't see how the Dolphins are going to slow down the Bills. And then again, as I was just talking about, I don't think the Dolphins Tua can rise up to the level that he needs to be in a shootout with the Bills right now. I just don't see it.
And
So
Buffalo,
go ahead.
Buffalo's one of the teams that knows how to play the Dolphins, knows how to play their offense. They know what they're doing. And yeah, if Jalen Waddle's out, then, I mean, honestly, you just double team Tyreek Hill. You basically take away, half of the Dolphins offense right there. And, and that's the thing, like you made a good point. The Dolphins ran the ball well today. If they could have hung in the game a little bit longer, maybe it would have been interesting. But once it got out of hand, that was it. And so I don't feel good about the Dolphins winning. And so, as we talked about, Clark, you and we talked about this. The Dolphins lost that Titans game a few weeks ago. And if they'd have won that game, they had a 14-point lead with 4 minutes to go. If they won that game, they'd have the division clinched and we wouldn't have to worry about it. We could basically rest this week.
Yep.
But because of that, now it's down to this for the season. And, hopefully Tua is not seriously injure his shoulder by sliding. But, it's typical Dolphins, Clark. It's typical, the last 25 years. This is what happens. The Dolphin fans get excited. They think we're better than we are. And this is what it is. Like, the Dolphins are kind of an average team.
Yeah, for fans and for also, like, I don't know, people all like on the Dan Le Batard show who just, especially Dan Le Batard himself talking about the Dolphins. Like, guys, this is why, and you can call us cynical or, whatever you want to say about when we're talking about the Dolphins, but I'm just reacting to what I'm watching and what I've been watching for the last few years. Like, what do you want me to say? And it's like, oh, well, the Patriots had the AFC East for years, so you can springboard from that and you can get to the Super Bowl. And it's like, yeah, but they don't beat good teams. Well, you're just beating who's in front of you. Yeah, but they don't beat good teams. Who do you think they're going to play in the playoffs?
Right.
What happens when they play good teams? They lose. And a lot of times they don't just lose, they get their asses kicked. Or they get their asses kicked, or their offense just can't do anything. So I don't understand why I'm supposed to be, oh, well, you're just not watching it right, or you're supposed to be more confident in them. Well, do you want me to just be a fanboy, or do you want me to be realistic about what I'm watching and what I've been watching?
Well, let's look at it this way, Clark. So the Dolphins, if they lose to Buffalo, right, they won 11 games this year. Okay, the Dolphins had the easiest at this point, which is the best way to calculate it, not before the season, but the Dolphins have the lowest strength of schedule. They had the easiest schedule in the league. Okay, so how is winning 11 games this year any better than winning 9 games last year? Like, I don't see I don't see a path to improvement. And if let's say hopefully they'll beat Buffalo. We'll see what happens. But if they lose to Buffalo, I don't see them going on the road and beating somebody. So it's just it's a rough way to go. And I know everybody, we sound like haters. We sound like we just don't like anything they do, and that's not true. I've liked a lot of things they've done, but and we'll talk about we can do the post-mortem for the season.
So I'll just say, I've seen people doing power rankings and stuff throughout the season, and like Nick Wright on First Things First does the Nick's tiers, and he constantly put the Dolphins in a tier of, these are teams that the Dolphins are a team that absolutely can make the AFC Championship game or make the Super Bowl, and I'm like, absolutely. really? Are you? And again, you may be thinking I'm saying this because I'm just a jaded Dolphins fan, and that's probably at least part of it. But how can you not watch this team and just go, oh yeah? How can you watch the team and go, oh yeah, they're going to beat multiple good teams in the playoffs, possibly one of them on the road? Yeah, right, they're going to do that. I mean, what are you watching? Of course, I guess I shouldn't really be that surprised. I mean, Nick Wright picked the Cowboys to go to the Super Bowl, so anyway.
Yeah. So all right. So